So our role with Bitcoin really is to look at, with crypto, really is to look at the banks, and we think it's, banks are perfectly able to serve crypto customers as long as they understand and can manage the risks, and it's safe and sound. As a good number of our banks that we regulate and supervise do that. The threshold has been a little higher for banks engaging in crypto activities. And that's because they're so new, and we don't want to make the mistake. If you're making a choice to conduct that activity inside a bank, which is inside the federal safety net with deposit insurance, then you want to be pretty sure that it's a safe and sound activity. So, we're not against innovation, and we certainly don't want to take actions that would cause banks to terminate customers who are perfectly legal.
So Jerome Powell knows exactly what's coming to the crypto industry, and the Fed is preparing for what I'm going to share with you in this video. So if you hold XRP, if you hold any Bitcoin, if you hold Ethereum or any other cryptocurrency, over the past few days, we've seen a short-term sell-off. But what I'm going to share with you in this video is going to completely change the game. Let me explain. So a major exchange, Gemini, many of you guys probably use it, is tapping into funding from Ripple ahead of its upcoming IPO launch. And now Coinbase is unveiling XRP perpetual futures for US traders. So it's no coincidence why Monica Long over at Ripple is saying things like Bank of America CEO is saying that they're all in. They were one of Ripple's early partners. And with Ripple's OCC banking license application now public, their National Trust Bank is officially in motion. But here's what you need to know. The Chief Innovation Officer over at Swift is hinting at what's about to happen, and we don't have much time to prepare. Because as you already know, ISO 20022 implementation goes live globally by November of this year. And so in today's video, we're going to talk all about that. We're going to discuss the Bitcoin price chart, the XRP price chart. We're going to discuss what's about to happen for altcoins, and if this tiny little pullback is something to be worried about, or if this is just a normal liquidity flush before the next leg higher. So you guys are going to absolutely love this video. As always, comment 777 if you're feeling blessed, if you're feeling bullish. If you're going to become the first millionaire in your family tree, you know what to do, man. Confirm it by tapping the subscribe button. Let's run it. Have you built a crypto portfolio over $1 million but want to access your wealth without selling any of your coins? Well, imagine unlocking up to 85% of your portfolio's value to fund ventures like real estate, to buy other projects in the crypto space that are undervalued compared to the projects that you currently hold, or to diversify into different DeFi yield opportunities. That way you can live on the interest without selling any of your crypto. Well, we've partnered with a leading global office offering non-recourse crypto loans for investors with portfolios starting at $1 million. The same company that is trusted by the world's largest institutions and investors because, as you already know, the billionaires don't sell their crypto, they borrow against it. So if you're ready to unlock up to 85% of your portfolio's value without selling any of your coins, and you have a portfolio with at least $1 million, then email us at team@bullrunners.com. You're going to see our email contact in the description below, and we'll get you connected with the company that has helped clients like ours north of $100 million borrow against their crypto without selling any of it. So reach out to start a conversation with our team right now at team@bullrunners.com, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, Bull Runners, welcome back to the channel. So it was important that I played this clip from Jerome Powell to kick this video off because it sets the tone for what's going to happen. I'm going to explain this in this video because we see these major exchanges getting ready to go public, and Gemini is actually founded by the Winklevoss twins. They filed their S1 registration statement with the SEC August 15th, just a few days ago, aiming for a public listing on the NASDAQ under the ticker symbol GEMI. And it would position them as the third major US-based crypto exchange to go public following Coinbase and Bullish exchange. And so they disclosed this credit agreement with Ripple Labs right here, providing access to a revolving credit faculty of up to $75 million with the potential of increase here, backed in part by Ripple's stablecoin RLUSD. And so this arrangement isn't direct equity funding, but it's rather a borrowing mechanism to enhance their financial position ahead of their IPO. And so if Gemini's doing well as an exchange, well, why would they need funding from Ripple? Great question. Well, they reported increasing net losses actually in recent quarters, with their cash reserves standing at approximately $162 million as of mid-2025, contrasted against their $2 billion in liabilities. And so by borrowing money from Ripple, specifically with their stablecoin, which operates on both the XRP ledger and Ethereum network, it allows Gemini to borrow in a stable crypto form. And this is actually an extremely important use case here because this marks one of the first public issuances of Ripple extending banking-like services to institutions using RLUSD, which would enhance cross-platform interoperability and liquidity for Gemini's operations. For an exchange like Gemini, which is pretty big, they had a valuation of $7.1 billion. Their user base is over 523,000 monthly transacting users. They serve over 10,000 institutional clients, and they operate in over 60 countries. So it's going to allow them to reduce reliance on traditional banking partners, and it's going to deepen their collaboration between Ripple and them, potentially positioning Gemini as a key player in the evolving XRP Fi by tying into Ripple's credit and stablecoin infrastructure. And it plays a role into what we're going to talk about throughout the course of this video that you need to pay attention to because of what Sal Gilberti, who's the CEO of TechRealm, talking about the biggest catalyst for Ripple and XRP. Listen to this.
Biggest XRP catalyst that you think will happen? I mean, the banking license, one, sure, for Ripple. Obviously, we've already seen quite a few, but there's also involvement in potentially a SWIFT movement in terms of cross-border payments. What would be your catalyst that you think would move the market?
I think those are both catalysts. I think that it's hard to say. If they get approved as a bank and then announce they're not going to sell any more XRP onto the market because they want to capitalize the bank, I think that would be an enormous impetus for price. That's gigantic. But then I think as SWIFT breaks down and ISO 222, I think that they're not projecting SWIFT to use it for a few years yet to be totally compliant with that. Whereas I think that when Ripple flips all the switches and all these NDAs they talk about come alive, and when you start seeing banks announce, we did this much on the blockchain ledger in terms of moving your money, and we did this much on SWIFT, and the SWIFT is going down and blockchain's going up. I think that's a big deal. And there's another point to be made here for the economy as a whole. Most people don't understand that banks have to keep capital in both places. If you want to send money from Miami to Tokyo, okay, banks have to have money in Tokyo and money in Miami under the current system. That all goes away. All that capital is going to be freed up with the blockchain. That's going to burnish the bank's balance sheets even more. But more so, they're going to be able to loan money. They're going to be able to finance their trading desks. It's going to open up so much capital to economic growth in general around the globe. It's a wonderful thing. The blockchain is literally going to open up value because it's going to unlock a lot of frozen money on the bank's balance sheets. And that's really important. Nobody seems to be talking about that.
So the main thing that has been slowing everything down is obviously lack of regulatory clarity, the SEC lawsuit, but now we're seeing that page turn in the book. We're going to see adoption on a whole nother level over the next few years. Listen to what Monica Long said here.
It feels like the floodgates are going to open this year, doesn't it? I mean, so within the past week, a couple weeks, so SAB 121 being called back or rolled back. And I mean, within, it felt like minutes, you hear from CEOs like Bank of America saying, we're all in. And, these are institutions that Bank of America was one of our early partners when we were doing kind of like the messaging software only payment solution. So we've worked with these types of banks for a long time, and the lack of clarity. And I mean, I think in the more recent time, even hostility toward, hey, using these assets and this technology is not okay. It's dangerous, which is not the best way to handle it, as we would say. But looking forward, I would say, yes, it seems like there's going to be a sea change this year. And even I could say post-November, the US election result, even just the ongoing conversations we've had with banks around being reserve bank or transaction banking partners for the stablecoin or for our payments business, like the tone and message changed overnight. Like it was quick.
And so this brings me to one of the most important documents for Ripple that will completely change the game for them, and that's their National Trust Banking Charter application here. So as you already know, Ripple applied for a national trust banking charter with the U.S. Office of the Comptroller of the Currency on July 2nd, and this would allow them to operate as a federally regulated limited purpose trust bank focused on blockchain-based custody and payment services, primarily for business-to-business operations. And so this move is a part of Ripple's overall strategy to integrate its cryptocurrency XRP and their stablecoin RLUSD into the traditional financial system. And they're essentially seeking regulatory clarity and direct access to the Federal Reserve payment system. So here's some key details of the application that you need to know. Number one would be the purpose of it. The charter would allow Ripple to regulate its RLUSD stablecoin. Through the Genius Act Donald Trump signed, it's already going to happen, but they're going to be able to provide custody services for tokenized assets, bypassing intermediary banks for faster, cheaper transactions. And Ripple's subsidiary Standard Custody also applied for a Federal Reserve master account to hold RLUSD reserves directly with the Fed, enhancing its integration. And this is why Ripple has brought on so many experts on their team, like Tim Keeney, who's the former vice chair of BNY Mellon, to help them out in a bigger leadership role. And he worked at BNY Mellon for over 25 years, where he was the vice chairman from 2012 to pretty much the present. And this whole entire application right here, that's about 27 pages long, has faced significant pushback from major banking institutions and different trade groups, opposing the charter, citing the unclear crypto regulations and insufficient public review times, arguing that crypto firms like Ripple lack transparency and may introduce financial system risks. It's very clear that they're threatened here. And why is that? Well, it's because it would allow Ripple to pretty much bypass their monopoly that they have over the US financial system. So this is much bigger than Ripple just becoming a bank here. This is about Ripple holding the master key for international finance. Because as you guys know, the Federal Reserve is already private. Donald Trump has had his bouts with Jerome Powell arguing about interest rates. And he can either choose to listen to Trump and do it or not. And clearly he's been making his own decisions, showing how they operate independent from what the president of the United States wants. So what this would do for Ripple is absolutely insane, because it would gain them federal oversight and legitimacy, which is why we're seeing massive clapback from all these other banks. And the Senate passing the Genius Act this year is providing clear rules for stablecoins. In this document right here, specifically from the White House, talking about strengthening American leadership in digital financial technology. This was released earlier this year in January. But this basically advocates for digital asset firms like Ripple to access Federal Reserve accounts and offer services like custody and tokenization. So when you combine that with Ripple's application here, with what Donald Trump has been doing, signing these executive orders, it's no coincidence here why we see people like Tom here, I don't even know how to say his last name, Zashak, Chief Innovative Officer over at Swift here. His LinkedIn profile says, unlocking digital finance, 77.7% complete. And in his About section, it says the infrastructure behind money is evolving fast, but not everyone knows how to navigate it. I work at the intersection of traditional financial systems and the next generation of tokenized value and emerging technologies. And he commented on a post right here made by a guy named Franz Steinbe saying the end of business-to-business payments rates, Ripple's $200 million checkmate when they purchased Rail. And so why did he comment here saying another checkmate moment? Could Ripple be playing a major role here? I mean, he's the Chief Innovation Officer over at Swift, which, as you already know, is short for Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications. It's the dominant global network for financial messages. And some sources are suggesting that Swift handles around 5 trillion funds per day. This translates to roughly $1.25 quadrillion per year, based on 250 business days, not even 365 days. And so if in his profile, he's putting 77% complete, and in his About section, he's saying he's working on the intersection of traditional finance systems and the next generation of tokenized value. What do you think that means? I don't know how much more obvious I can make it for you guys, because during the coexistence period for customers and banks that can decide when to enable ISO 222 for cross-border payments, well, the banks that are getting a jump on the gun right now have been integrating over the past few months, but they have until November for end-to-end integration here. And I don't know, could that be what Tom means when he says 77.7% complete here? And the remaining completion is going to be something tied to the ISO 222 implementation globally by November of this year? Well, that would make sense to me. So if that's the case, and we're seeing all this massive stuff happening behind the scenes, well, what's happening with the price action on the chart? Well, if we look at Bitcoin has pulled back over the weekend from 124, almost 125K, now sitting at $116,000. And if we look at the open interest suite right here, that shows the amount of leverage on the table, still in an uptrend right here. So I don't see anything out of the ordinary. Bitcoin's holding on top at these previous highs right here, one around $112,000. You can see it dipped into this zone right here and then bounced to the upside. And so we're in good territory here. As long as we're staying above $108,000, $109,000, I don't personally see anything out of the ordinary or bearish here for Bitcoin. It's holding up very strong above $100,000. And as open interest keeps climbing up, we need to see these liquidations happen to basically shake out tourists so the professionals can eat. And so could we go lower in the short term? Yeah, definitely. It's possible. When we see major breakouts like this, we just go through major volatility ranges, like what happened right here between the 20th of May and the 10th of July. And when we look at XRP's price chart, XRP is just following Bitcoin. As you guys can see, This is just another bull flag right here forming lower highs and lower lows. And so when we break out, we go through these bull flags at key levels of resistance before we inevitably break through. So where would a key level be? Well, it's pretty much right around here from where we rallied to back in January of 2025. And it doesn't need to be 100% exact. You're not going to see price go right to a key price and then come down. As you can see, we went above it for a little bit. We come back down below it in this bull flag, come back up to it to retest it. And now we're just going through another bull flag right here. So what I would expect in the short term for XRP is for us to just stay in this bull flag channel, forming lower highs and lower lows until Bitcoin makes a move and starts to break back to the upside. So once Bitcoin breaks to the upside, I would expect that to flow into XRP. And I would want to see for any bullish strength here on how to be able to trade this, because obviously it's impossible to know exactly what's going to happen. But for example, if you're just looking at a bare naked chart right here, and if we were to just draw simple support and resistance for XRP in this channel to get the most points of contact right here, you're going to see it's not 100% exact. As we can have fake outs, we come above it, and then we get sold back down off into the descending support right here. So ultimately, what I would want to see for a sign of strength is for XRP to clear $3.15 and hold it as support. Inevitably, we could do something like this too, breaking out, holding it as support before making the next move to the upside. I would want to see something like this happen before I get aggressively bullish on XRP, because otherwise, if we just get rejected from this descending resistance and we do something like this and we come back down further, well, then the bears are just going to remain in control here. Because as you can see right here on the relative strength index, we are in a downtrend. So in the short term, I'm not too worried about XRP. Again, if you want better entry points, I talked about this on our previous call for Altcoin Pro Accelerator clients. If you guys haven't joined Altcoin Pro, you can check that out through the link in the description below. Currently, the accelerator program is closed, but we do have another call coming up Wednesday, just a couple days from right now, where I'm going to break this down more in detail for you guys to be able to get better entry points, regardless of whatever happens on the price chart. So that way you're not buying into major fake outs like this and then seeing the price crash on you and left holding the bag, waiting to recover on your spot positions. That way you can be able to get the best possible entry points before major reversals happen in the market, so you can get to as close to the bottom as possible. Although you won't buy the exact bottom, I'm going to show you when is the best point to buy based on key reversal signals. And one of the biggest signals that I look for on the macro for XRP and for other cryptocurrencies is Bitcoin's dominance relative to the whole industry. And if we pair these charts up side by side, you can see total 2, which is everything other than Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's dominance compared to the last bull run. So right here in December of 2020, when the dominance topped out at 70%, we saw it drop rapidly, consolidate for a little bit. And it was at that moment that the altcoin market went from $200 billion right here and broke all the way upwards of 1.5 to like $1.75 trillion when Bitcoin's dominance broke to the downside. And Bitcoin's dominance dropped drastically to 40%. I mean, we went from 70% to 40%. We knocked off 30% relatively quickly in a matter of, if I were to just measure this to get a time frame here, roughly 140 days. And so right now, how far into this breakdown are we on Bitcoin's dominance? Well, we've dropped about 10% from about 66%, a little under 10%. We're like, 59%. In about 50 to 60 days. And so the altcoins at the bottom of the screen, look at what happened. They move inversely to Bitcoin's dominance dropping. So when Bitcoin's dominance drops, money flows out of Bitcoin, it either goes into stable coins, or in this case, it goes into the altcoin market. And that's what we've seen happen for Total 2. So right now, Total 2 is only 50 to 60 days into this breakout here, whereas it took 140 days for the last breakout when Bitcoin's dominance started to drop after topping out. Well, where would that put us at about 140 days? November of 2025. So strange coincidence, right? Now, also, you guys can see that we are at a key resistance here for Total 2. And the more times that we knock on resistance, the weaker that it gets. And so to me, what this just looks like is another massive cup and handle formation where you guys can see the cup right here for Total 2. And if we were to get like a price range or a price target for the whole entire industry in terms of market cap, on what that would mean on the next breakout, once we finally do pass the major resistance, we just take the depth of the cup right here and we put it to the breakout point, which would be the resistance that we're pretty much at right now. And that would put us at about 6.5 to 6.6 trillion dollars. So we're at 1.5 trillion right now. So we're talking about what, $4 or $5 trillion in terms of a target for this whole entire industry on this breakout. Well, if that were to happen, that'd be absolutely insane. But in order for that to take place, what would need to happen is Bitcoin's dominance would most likely need to go to like 40% or 30% down within this region right here, because a lot of liquidity would need to flow out of Bitcoin into altcoins, because we're just not seeing the same level of retail interest returning in the market. It's mostly institutions coming back in. People like Michael Saylor buying up as much Bitcoin as possible off of borrowed money. And so Bitcoin is propped up by a lot of borrowed money, by a lot of USDT printing. And arguably, this could be the next major black swan event, for the next major crash having to deal with USDT and Bitcoin. Inevitably, I think a lot of liquidity is going to flow to XRP. We're seeing it trickle into Ethereum right now at $500 billion. But we got 2.3 trillion in Bitcoin, and we only have 182 billion in XRP. XRP's faster, it's cheaper to send, and there's real-time partnerships with Ripple and acquisitions that are taking place that we've covered over the past few years that's happening. And I think it's inevitable for XRP. And really the buy-ups that have been happening right now have been a lot of speculation, because the true utility for XRP won't really be realized until, like we just talked about, where Swift is finally overhauled and the 70.7% completion is to 100% completion. Ripple's national bank charter application finally sees some use case and is approved. And the CBPR coexistence period coming in November of 2025 happens. Now, does that mean on November everything's going to explode? No, probably not. I would expect the markets to do what they're going to do just based on global liquidity, M2 anyways, and Bitcoin's dominance dropping, which would cause a major breakout. So let's say, for example, in November, we're around $3 trillion to $6 trillion. Well, you don't want to wait for that to happen before you start looking for the right altcoins. So that's why we created Altcoin Pro University, to be able to help you guys position yourself properly. So if you missed out on XRP sub 50 cents, or if you already have enough XRP and you're just pretty much holding, waiting for the next major move up to $5 or higher, then it's always smart to have a solid diversification strategy into projects that are undervalued, that are going to see a large chunk of liquidity flow into them once we see Total 2 finally break out and Bitcoin's dominance drops. And that's what our team is going to share with you guys inside of Altcoin Pro University, so you can be at the forefront of the market and not in the back of the line. For example, our research team posted GOAT on the 13th of October of 2024 when it was right at a penny, and since then it rallied to over $1, 5,000%. That's like turning $1,000 into over $50,000. Our team called Pendle at only a $16 million market cap, or 16 cents, back on February 18th of 2023, all the way back here, and since then it's rallied up over 4,000%. That's a 40x. It's like turning $1,000 into over $40,000. Our team also called BitTensor Tau September 15th, 2022, before the token was ever even launched. And since then, Tau has rallied over 2,000%. That's a 20x. Our team even said Solana is most likely to be one of the easiest trades next year, and this was posted December 29th, 2022, on the day that Solana bottomed out at around $8. And since then, Solana looks like it's up over 2,500%. That's a 25x. It's like turning $1,000 into over $25,000. The list goes on and on and on. Our team called Sui, Ondo, and even some of the biggest cult-based meme coins like MOG back in July 20th of 2023, the day that MOG launched. So if you want to learn how our team is finding these altcoins before they explode, we just launched Altcoin Pro University, where our research team gives you real-time altcoin picks with explosive potential for this bull run, along with 100+ expert curated classes crafted by industry experts to discover these gems yourself, on top of our live weekly calls every single week for in-depth crypto market analysis and daily updates. And that's just a fraction of what we offer inside of Altcoin Pro University through the link below. And although we make no guarantees, because crypto is definitely risky, guys, this is only $97 a month or $970 a year. If you want to save $194, getting 2 months for free and unlock some exclusive bonuses, just go through the link in the description below. Get in right now. Watch the 26-minute video covering everything that Altcoin Pro University offers to help you become the first millionaire in your family tree, if that's a goal of yours. And you can get started through the link in the description below right now, or you can go to bullrunners.com to take advantage of the bonuses we're giving you before they expire. Everyone is loving the community. They're loving the education. They're getting access to real-time altcoin picks first before we ever make videos about them. So click the link in the description below, watch the video, and I'll see you on the inside.